What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Traveling Crypto. It feels good to be back. I was in South America for a while, mostly for a work trip, but I did get a chance to venture out and see some touristy things. So while I was on the plane, I was actually listening to a podcast that I downloaded prior to leaving. And one of the podcasts that I was listening to was Joe Rogan's podcast. Many of you might be familiar with it. If you're not, Joe Rogan is a commentator who interviews different personalities from a wide variety of genres. In this case, he was interviewing Peter Schiff. Now, Peter Schiff, this guy right here, is a businessman who also has a radio show. He's a commentator usually on economic topics. He is famed with predicting the 2008 financial crisis. That's his biggest claim to fame. And he is probably the staunchest advocate for gold, or at least the most well-known advocate for gold. He owns a company called Schiff Gold, which was then acquired by a parent company called Gold Money. Anyway, so they were basically, they got to a point in the conversation where they were talking about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. He's made a number of statements prior about Bitcoin and about cryptocurrency. And if you haven't guessed by the title of the video, or you're not familiar with him, he is a Bitcoin detractor. He's not a believer, even though he is a self-professed libertarian. He does not believe in the concept of Bitcoin. So let's take a look at some of his remarks and see what his criticisms of Bitcoin are, and then I will comment on those criticisms.
To show me how it works, they gave me $100 worth of Bitcoin, and then I gave somebody back 50, but I kept 50 of it. So
in case.
Yeah, although now it's only worth 48 because it's gone down, right?
Well, it moves all over the place.
So I mean, I don't feel badly that, some of these guys lucked into having a lot of money, or, it's luck, or they took a shot and it paid off, right? They got in and, and the market exploded and they have an opportunity to cash out at a profit. But a lot of them are not cashing out. I think they're going to go down with the ship. But
when you say that, you think it's going down.
Oh, yeah, because it's not going to succeed as money. It's not going to work. It's just a highly speculative asset,
See, here's where my ears perked up, and this is where I have a huge problem. He's conflating, or he muddies up the conversation by talking about the speculative nature of trading Bitcoin and what the value of Bitcoin is on the market versus the fact that it's never going to work as money. Those are completely separate things. When Satoshi Nakamoto created the idea of Bitcoin, or invented the protocol itself, I highly doubt he or she was thinking about how this thing is going to be traded on a market. They might not have even considered the fact that there would be a market, a speculative market for such a thing. So conflating the tradable value of Bitcoin, or the speculative value of Bitcoin, with its protocol or decentralized mechanism is a huge mistake. And this is where I think Peter Schiff first makes a mistake. Let's go on to see more of this interview.
But when I talk to these people, to me, it's very much, like a cult. I mean, they believe so strongly in this. They're so caught up in the hype and the hysteria, and maybe they're blinded by the money they think they're going to make. When these things are $1 million a piece, or wherever they believe they're going.
Yeah, that's what they think it's going to. They think it's going to go to $1 million.
Well, there was an article last week. Some guy was saying 100 million of Bitcoin. That's why nobody wants to sell. Right, but the smart people are selling. The people that got in early are trying to con people into holding on so that they can get out.
Again, I mean, here he is talking about the speculative nature of Bitcoin. The value of Bitcoin's invention is not in the speculative value or the ability to use the technology as money digitally, right? Like, sending money digitally is so easy now. You don't need Bitcoin to reinvent the wheel. It's not about sending money in a digital platform. Bitcoin's value is that it's a decentralized peer-to-peer currency that doesn't have a single point of failure and cannot be shut down or changed by a monopolistic authority. And this is what boggles my mind about Peter Schiff being the self-professed libertarian that he is. I'm not saying that I am. I'm not making any proclamations as to my political views, but he is a self-professed libertarian, which is one of the reasons why he is so heavy or bullish on gold. And the fact that he cannot understand this concept just boggles my mind and is actually quite frustrating.
of them, although some people think it's maybe a complement of gold, but it doesn't have any actual value. And that's where I get into a lot of arguments with these crypto guys, because they say, well, gold doesn't have any actual value either, which is laughable, because of course gold has actual value. There are lots of things that I can do with gold, and that shows that it has value. There's nothing that I can do with Bitcoin other than give it to somebody else. I mean, that's the whole purpose of it, is to give it to somebody else. And
Right, but our whole economy's kind of screwy. It's entirely possible that it could shift over to it.
All right. So then he goes on to compare Bitcoin to gold and says that Bitcoin doesn't have any value, but gold does. And in full disclosure, Peter Schiff should have stated that his main source of income relies on promoting gold and being bullish on gold. I mean, his company that was acquired was called Schiff Gold, and it was acquired by a larger company called Gold Money. He might have admitted this because he is well known and didn't feel the need to preface the conversation. But if you don't know who he is, his whole business model is rooted in gold-based investments. And there's even a sector of his business that allows you to digitize your gold investment by owning a debit card that is 100% gold backed. So there is a little bit of conflict of interest with regards to cryptocurrency and the ability to send money digitally, right? If he sees that as a competition to his business model, then of course he's going to be critical of it, and he makes no mention of his role in Schiff Gold or in Gold Money. It's funny because later in the video he sneakily promotes or plugs Gold Money when giving Joe an example of why gold is valuable. You'll see that later in the video. Anyway, he says gold is valuable because it can be used for other things other than speculation. Well, who do you know in your life, who do you know uses gold for anything other than a speculative investment or as a form of jewelry, which in and of itself is speculative behavior? I mean, yeah, sure, it's a great conductor metal, and there's a niche market where certain companies use gold, such as in gold tip audio equipment, for instance. But we're not talking about that. Those are niche markets. I'm saying who, besides those niche businesses, like what value or what uses does gold actually have? And if we're talking about value aside from speculation and aside from being able to be used as a currency, then Bitcoin's blockchain has value as well, since the blockchain itself has tertiary use cases aside from being a digital currency. All right, let's continue a little bit further with this because I have a few more comments. And here is actually where he plugs his own company, or the parent company that owns his company, Gold Money.
But what Gold Money is doing is taking that old blacksmith concept and bringing it into the modern era, because I can store my gold in a vault at Brinks through Gold Money, and now I can transfer any portion. I can give you a gram of my gold, a tiny amount of gold. I can just send it to you for free, and now you own that gold, because now the ownership register is going to be changed. And instead of being in Peter Schiff's name, it's going to be in Joe Rogan's name. And so once you can do that, once I can take a bar of gold and turn it into liquid money that can be used to buy a cup of coffee.
And you're doing all this without having physical control of the gold.
No,
you're not physically holding it in your hands. It's in a vault somewhere.
Yeah, well, somebody has to have physical control. And that's what a lot of the Bitcoin advocates don't like about something like a Gold Money. They say, well, you have to trust a third party to store your gold. Yes, you do. I mean, but people have been trusting third parties with gold for thousands of years. And, you have reliable third parties that can hold on to something of real value.
All right. So it's so funny because Joe Rogan is not, he's not particularly well versed in this subject. I mean, not at least based off of what I know and based off the interviews I've seen. But he asks a very relevant and pertinent question there. He said, but you don't have control of your own gold, as in there is somebody, a third party or an authority, right, who has control over this monetary asset that you supposedly own, and all you have is the certificate. Now, I'm not downplaying gold-backed money. I actually am a fan of that. I'm not a fan of pure fiat money as it exists today. However, trusting this third party or trusting an authority with any of your assets, that is one of the main reasons that Satoshi Nakamoto created what he or she created, is because it is a decentralized peer-to-peer exchange of money or exchange of currency, where for the first time ever you have complete control over what you own. So he messily brings up this point about needing to trust a third party with your gold, and how that somehow adds to the value of gold versus Bitcoin or Bitcoin's mechanism. And as a libertarian that he claims to be, this absolutely baffles me. If you're a libertarian, nothing is more attractive than decentralized structures within society. The most important one being money. So I don't really see where Peter Schiff is coming from. I mean, I do understand the criticisms of fiat currency. We all, if you're involved in the crypto space, most likely you hold those same criticisms of fiat currency as well. And I do appreciate the concept of a gold-backed money system or a gold standard, the way that we used to have here in the United States, versus the ability to create money, as you please, basically. But this gold versus Bitcoin debate, I don't quite understand. And he keeps subverting the conversation by conflating the speculative nature of Bitcoin, or the traded value of Bitcoin, with its actual utility and what its strengths are in terms of monetary function. Just because Bitcoin's value in the market drops versus fiat, like versus the US dollar, that has nothing to do with the underlying principle and the technology itself. Bitcoin is not a company like Facebook or Amazon. As a matter of fact, when Satoshi Nakamoto, who they hilariously refer to as Nakamura.
Did they ever figure out who that Satoshi Ishii guy is?
No, just Satoshi Nakamura. No,
Satoshi Nakamura.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
when he or she or they created Bitcoin, I highly doubt that they had a marketplace in mind. And I could tell you for sure that that wasn't their main motivation. Anyway, go ahead and like this video. Comment if you please. Subscribe. Hit that notification bell if you haven't. Visit the link in the description for the weekly crypto picks and the trade alerts. Subscribe to the Discord. It's 100% free. Stay safe out there. Peace.